Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Homeland Security segment. Russia is considering bases in Cuba and Vietnam as Russian generals are becoming increasingly belligerent towards the U.S. and even mentioning possible war. This is a story that I have not really seen covered too much. We already have the Iranians shooting missiles at U.S. ships. We also have
Yemen,
and we have the Russians competing with us in Syria and saying that they're going to shoot our planes out of the sky if we're in Syria. And now Russian generals are saying that we may be on the brink of war and possibly even nuclear war. Is that talk, do you think, or do you really think...
That's a little ahead of the game. I think what Russia is doing right now is solidifying its new position in the world that was given to them by the fact that we no longer took advantage of the fact that we were the world's leading superpower.
And we also remember Barack Obama back in 2011 telling Medvedev, I got to get through this election and then I can be a lot more easier and I can let Vlad do what he wants to do. Basically, I'm paraphrasing.
Medvedev, he was just an interim president so that they didn't look like...
it was a dictatorship.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about the real danger of Russia today. First of all, they are technologically much further ahead than I thought they were. A lot of the hacking that's going on today, and it's true, they are really interfering in our election and getting into our basic digital aspect in a way that we never thought they could. Because the Russians, a lot of scientists there, a lot of people with brains, they still have 140 million people, which is way down from what they were when they were the Soviet Union. But when they were the Soviet Union, they had Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all the Islamic countries, Georgia, who were really not being very productive as far as looking at it in the modern way of what makes a country powerful today. The 140 million Russians today are getting the kind of leadership that you get from a dictator who knows what he's doing. And the big thing right now is everything you said is correct. The Russians got the Chinese on their side. They took over the Crimea as if it didn't exist, even though it was given to them by Khrushchev when they were part of the Soviet Union. That was part of the Ukraine and it was taken away. The Russians have also taken off a certain amount of the eastern Ukraine, and the Russians are now scaring the devil out of Finland and the Baltic nations that used to be part of the Soviet Union.
And when Trump says that they're fighting ISIS in Syria, I'm not sure that I agree with that. Do you? Do you really think they're going after... Are they trying to protect Assad in Syria?
Oh, that's their only objective. The Russians' objective is to protect Assad, and the fact that he is a key he is a lackey of the Russians. He lives only strictly by the power that the Russians place behind him. Syria might as well be a Russian principality, absolutely.
And now, if they put bases in Cuba, that changes the whole game in the Western Hemisphere.
They almost did, and they did back. That's what's almost gave us a nuclear war back in the mid '60s.
Back when you had a real Democratic leader.
Yeah, that's right.
Who wouldn't even he'd be shunned by the Democrat Party today.
That's true, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. But the point is, Russia is reestablishing its relationship with Cuba. You see, what we don't understand as Americans, we automatically, the only reason that America became so powerful, we were not only an example of success, progress, and strength, but we had the most powerful military in the world. Our military today is a joke compared to what it was. It's hard for me to believe that our Navy today has less ships than we had before the First World War. Not the Second World War, the First World War. We've let this deal, that budget deal that we cut, the sequestration thing, You know where the money came
That's
from?
the only place that these people will cut is the military.
They cut all our military expenditures. Every general, every admiral, everybody, intelligence officer who no longer is responsible to the government, is now in retirement, will tell you that this country is being taken apart militarily. We are now in very bad shape as far as the military power is concerned.
We're buying Chinese used parts for our airplanes. We've gotten the diversity is more important than actual having people that can actually fight and carry the load. You're right. We've been completely neutered.
We've been neutered, but two things have happened. Once we had the military power by far, way more than any other country after the Second War. But we also were righteous in the way we supported people. And the combination of power and righteousness is what gave us the superpower status that once the Soviet Union collapsed in the late 1980s. Now, all the benefits that came to us at that time have just about disappeared. And we're now the world powers, good, bad, or indifferent, look at the United States. At the best, they say, well, they're no longer interested, so they're not going to hurt us if we do something that they don't like.
The war on police is continuing to grow in this country.
Yes.
And I'm becoming concerned because we just heard a story of a police officer that was afraid to take action and actually got shot himself because he was concerned that if he was to take action, he would be hung out to dry. So now you've got police officers that are second-guessing themselves because of political correct nonsense. Does this concern you a little bit?
Well, yes, and that's putting it on a domestic scale as to what we just talked about in the world, that the police don't have the sense of power that they are there to protect American citizens.
And we also have new leaked emails. I hate to keep going back to that, but that's how we can confirm this sabotage. George Soros was in cahoots with Obama and Clinton saying we need to federalize the police departments and the law enforcement in this country. So there you go again. It's more left-wing colluding to take down any sense of decency, of policing, and you have no laws, you have no country.
That's true. You mentioned George Soros. He is probably the most dangerous, evil person in the country, if not the world today.